Welcome to Silent No More. Today we're talking about something many people experience but struggle to explain. It's not always fighting, it's not always cheating, it's not always leaving, sometimes it's simply distance. That feeling of lying next to someone and still feeling alone, having conversations but not feeling heard, sharing a home but no longer sharing yourselves. Today we're discussing the distance between us and exploring emotional disconnection in relationships, why it happens, how it impacts us, and whether it's impossible to reconnect once that distance has formed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Clinton McMurdock to the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm intro.
What's going on, sir? How you doing?
Oh, life is good. I'm on this side of the ground, so that's a good start.
Okay, yeah, that's one way to do it. Hey, take a few seconds and give us a nice little intro about yourself, sir. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a 29-year Army vet. I'm sure all the other branches laughing, telling their jokes or whatever, but yeah, it's all fun and games. Hey, it's all part of the culture, but I was also an IT guy for 16 years, and now I'm a financial professional, which implies pretty much anything under the financial umbrella. And I'm very passionate about helping others, not just in my field. I like helping people with their life. So anything I can do, whether it's monetary, whether it's physical labor, whether it's just a shoulder to cry on, I try to do it all.
So would you say you're pretty good at identifying and working with relationships?
Yes, pretty good.
Yeah, especially being in the financial world. I mean, you would have to be somewhat decent at, dealing with relationships and providing some type of advice.
Yes. I try to emphasize that no matter what it is, the stress you deal with, it's always temporary, and it may get replaced with another stress, but it doesn't matter. Nothing lasts forever. Even the good times too. Nothing lasts forever. So it's always time to reset, and then you be lock, cock, ready to rock.
Hey, so we talking about relationships and talking about, bringing us into this evening. What would you say most relationships, they don't just go from connected to disconnected overnight? How does emotional distance usually begin in relationships, in your opinion?
Well, that type of distance, it's what's that cute word I'm looking for? Insidious. It's I learned a new word. I want to try to use it. I
Oh yeah, go
waited
ahead,
about
man.
five.
Take your time, man. Throw it out there.
I waited about 5 years for the opportunity, and here we are. but but sometimes there's things that happen. You know, you grow apart, which is very involuntary. That can happen. We could say communication is key. There's so many different things that happen that textbooks textbook per se,
Right.
but other times when you grow and when people make changes for better on their end and no longer benefit the other, sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we miss the fact that this person is doing something what's best for them, which feels like a ding towards the other person. I think that's one of the biggest ones that's overlooked. I mean, you got your obvious ones, people spending less time at home, and those are the kind of the easy ones, but it's the ones you don't see and you don't realize because there's no real malice or no real victim per se.
So that's a good point, right? Since you said it's the ones that you don't see. So why would you say couples often miss those signs? They don't see them. What's some of the things that could be distracting or there could be obviously the everyday hustle and bustle, dealing with work, school, kids. But what's some of those signs that they miss, and why do they miss those signs?
Oh, well, it's something a little more simpler than that. Like I could think of an example off the top of my head, and I always joke about it. I always joke about it and say, not politically correct, but these are words I say behind closed doors. I
Okay.
always say, I always say men are so stupid because anything they don't like or anything that bothers them, they wait 10 years to say something about it. Now, you wait that long, and now that's the dynamic of the relationship. So after you have dealt with this and secretly hated it for 10 years, now now you turn into some bitter person because you took all this time. And I always say women are smart because when you first meet them, possibly even first date, you do or say something stupid, they gonna give you that look and it's like who you talking to, but they're gonna nip it in the bud. They don't want to deal with this later. But men, we think we could just give a little face or whatever and think that they're just going to pick it up. So we don't say what we have a problem with. And that's a big problem of ours. If we would have stated that we had the problem with it, that adjustment could have been made or some understanding behind it. You know, you should have gave this woman an opportunity to let you know that she was not malicious with what she did. She didn't know that it bothered you. So I think that's one of those things that's not really talked about with men.
So let me ask you a question, because you said you had 29 years, and thank you for your service. 20
Thank
twenty
you.
nine years of service in the Army. And would you say that's something that possibly impacted, or something that maybe enabled your some of those behaviors within some relationships?
Well, yes, yes, because I my the 29 years, I met my wife around year 6. So
Year
so
six of in
between,
the Army?
right, in the
Okay,
army.
okay.
So when I was married, I saw a whole bunch of examples of what you don't do.
Give me a
So
couple. Give me a
I,
couple. Give me one or two examples.
I'll give
Back
you
then, that was in the 80s, right? Give me something from back then in the 80s that you still holding on to.
okay. I know I've seen couples who I saw couples who argued about who do the most. And how do you put apples and oranges? I saw couples talking about I raised these kids, and then the husband saying, "Well, you wouldn't be able to raise these kids if I wasn't bringing this money in." And it's like you both have an important role, and
Right.
I was on the outside. I wasn't in the heat of the moment, so I was able to rationalize, and I look at it and say, y'all both need each other because them kids is you ain't paying for no daycare, no nanny, and to raise them kids and for her to work a full-time job. I looked at it like you guys are a team. And
Right.
I had parents, matter of fact, about 31 days from now, my parents will be celebrating their 51st anniversary. So I
Oh,
kind of
wow.
grew up in a household understanding, family values. So that was a lot I was able to look at. I was able to look at things and say, if I ever become a parent, I ain't gonna do that. And I watch men get kicked out, and I'm like, that ain't gonna be me if I get married. So so it kind of kept me behave.
No, yeah, absolutely. Nothing better than having examples to look at, especially so as you saying, and having examples in the workplace as well as in the home with the grandparents, especially holding it down for 50 years strong. So, would you say, or what would you say, what role does routine play in disconnection? Because you've seen so much of longevity with your 29 years dedication, loyalty, 50 plus years with the grandparents. So it seems to be like surrounded by a solid foundation of loyalty and those type of things. But what role does routine play in disconnection?
Well, what routine play in disconnection is sometimes routines change. Like a lot of people, I've heard a lot of stories about people divorcing after they retire, after the kids move out, things like that. And I don't know. I'm not even sure if it was, you could call it routine. It's like y'all became each other's habit instead of each other's soulmate.
Oh
You know,
shit. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Go ahead. Talk about it. Talk about it.
yeah. So when you're each other's habit, you just do stuff just because you've been doing it for 30 years or whatever. So like um like for me, I've been married 24 years. And after the kids got grown, moved out and stuff, I still, when I'm at the store, I don't go to that cash register without calling or texting my wife saying, "Hey, baby, do you need something before I get home?" When I'm
Okay.
coming home from work, that's just the caring nature we have for each other. And she
Uh-huh.
always checks on me, and always offer that shoulder to cry on. My longest days, she always there to rub my bald head. By the way, I never had hair since we ever met, so she don't even know what that's like. But yeah, so yeah, she's always there, and that's why I'd give her the world if I had it.
No, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So let me ask you, because you touched on quite a few good points, right? And just kind of bring those and tie those all in. Why do you people often wait until they're disconnected so far to address that problem? Because, like you said a few minutes ago, and I don't want to be men down, but I definitely want to address the point that we may not, because
Right,
we hear so much about embrace the suck, just deal with it. You know what I mean?
right.
And then, until this is a point to it's almost foobar that you try to address the problem. What would you say? Obviously, you want people to be more reactive versus being more proactive versus reactive. What would you say to how to address that problem by being disconnected, especially with you having 24 years of experience?
Well, in my 24 years, sometimes we kind of we kind of lose sight of what each other, and we get easy hints like little things that show us that we then veered off the path, like little things like and I mean very little, like when when I'm making a plate and I don't ask her how much she want. So I'm one of the lucky ones, but for the ones who drift apart, they may just look at things as like temporary. Oh, she just tripping at the moment. Well, what you don't realize is that when you grow and when you change, you know, it, you it may be maturity from your end, but in the end you can kind of let things fall like whack-a-mole.
Yeah,
When this thing, when you touch this one, this issue come up. And sometimes people don't accept the fact that you don't get along 24/7, 365 days. And don't just pull back before you say something you don't mean. That's I think that's the best thing you can say. But some couples live in the past,
Oh yeah.
and and the past is easy because that's the part where you won.
Right.
So now it's like, hey, well, you remember that time you didn't put gas in the car and I ran out? You know, when you find yourself going back looking for that win instead of addressing the situation that's in front of you, it builds resentment. Sometimes we do I like to call it I don't like to call it that. That's what it is. Like a lot of logical fallacies, like false dilemma, like where if you do something for yourself, this is just an example. You do something for yourself, it gets equated to selfishness. You mow the neighbor's lawn before yours, you don't care about your house, and those little, I mean, way more examples, but sometimes when things are not done that directly benefit the mate, and sometimes the mate can mistake that as them being lowered. So I think that could interfere with relationships a whole lot. And this person still love you the same. They just didn't do what they usually do on a daily basis. But get them time to come back to it, or just tell them, hey, you know what? I like when my bath water ready when I get home. Hey, why haven't you done that? And it could end as quickly like, oh, you know what? I am tripping. You know what? The last time I did it, you didn't even take a bath that day. I thought you didn't like it no more.
Right.
Any little mishap can happen, but when you have the conversation in your own mind without the person, somehow when you conversate with yourself, the worst always comes out. This person hates me, not this person. Not this person had a bad day
Self
or anything
sabotage.
like
Right.
that.
Self
Right.
sabotage.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question because you touched on a lot about communication. Most people say communication is the issue. Is communication the problem, or is it something deeper than that?
Um, well, that, like I say, that's one of the easy ones, communication.
Right.
But
What's deeper?
sometimes,
Go two levels deeper.
right. Well, sometimes when you communicate, or are you really communicating? Because it's not communication if you have a predetermined thought and you bring a conversation to your mate and your mind is already made up about it. That's not communication. That's some man looking for confirmation on his theory. And when they don't hear their theory, they're just gonna dig and dig and dig till they say something that support what they were uh, thinking before the conversation happened. So I think, and communication. If you think you know the answer already, you're never going to get any information.
Great point. Let me ask you a question. So that happens a lot in relationships nowadays. You hear a lot of men expressing them trying to have a conversation with the let's just say with the partner,
Right.
and the cutting off in the conversation, not being able to express a full thought. And then when you break down and say, hey, why are you cutting me off? Why won't you? Because I thought I knew what you were going to say. Well, why don't you want to wait and finish to see what I was going to say? And if you thought you knew what I was going to say, you know what I mean? Like, what's the advantages? What's the advantage there? If you think you know what somebody's going to say, how is that effectively communicated? And that because it happens so much in today's relationships in society.
Yes, yes. and it makes a big difference if you're the one that initiated the conversation, and you're looking for that one answer. It'll kill the other person inside. So it's kind of like, I don't
Your
know,
20
maybe.
years, do you have an experience? Do you have something that you can share with us as an example?
Well, you- when you
Something from
when
yesterday.
you when you look at when you look at when you look at these somehow the women just seem to be more behaved on these shows, but
Wait,
you
wait, wait,
see,
wait, wait. What shows?
them daytime shows,
I
divorce
don't know,
court.
man. What shows? General
Yeah,
Hospital, Days of Our Lives. What you talking about?
right. No, I'm talking about like on divorce court. So here is now hear me out. Here's what I see a
You
lot on there.
you're going in the wrong direction, brother.
Right. But what this the example I'm making though. Like when
Good.
somebody say the and just take the example, the man will accuse the woman of cheating, and the woman says, well, we're gonna do this, polygraph. But this man already has his mind made up. They do the polygraph and they said she wasn't, and he said that polygraph is lying. That kind of thing. Like if you're already set in it, and it's almost like not taking no for an answer.
Okay,
And
okay. Hold on. I heard enough, man. So you keep
yeah.
taking that stance as the guy keeps thinking that way. As at no point have you used an example referencing to women thinking that way. So
Oh,
are you leaning more towards you thinking? Um, Tell me which direction you going there, because you don't think at any point that women are also leaning to those directions and having those thoughts.
oh
Because it
yes,
can't be all
definitely.
about the guy. I want, it's all about duality. I want a little bit of
No,
balance here. So this ain't a male
yeah.
bashing session.
Oh yes. It definitely happened. Yeah, it definitely happened among women.
Okay,
They'll
let's look at some other perspectives,
bust
right?
their car windows out before they talk to you about it. When you know I always say for women, don't mistake evidence for women into intuition.
Okay, I like that. There you go.
So don't just, you hear somebody say, oh, it's women tuition. Don't ask, what's women's tuition? So you're pretty much admitting that you're giving me an irrational thought up front.
Okay, okay.
And
So take that tuition thing. Take that tuition. And in relationships, because we talked about communication, we talked about people not being open minded and those different things. How is it that someone can feel lonely while in a relationship? How is that possible?
well, a person can feel lonely when they don't feel seen or heard. Like like um
Give me an example as a man. If you had a situation where you kind of felt lonely in a relationship. 29 years in the army is a time where maybe while deployed or maybe while somewhere, where you might have found, being lonely and not necessarily that somebody, and I know you said you might be one of the lucky ones, but just a situation where you wish somebody might have reached out more, or they might have, put a little bit more effort into it.
okay, here's like an example, like um a man that's kind of struggling through his, let's just say a guy suffering from PTSD.
Okay.
Now now at this stage, this man don't really have any ill will towards his family, but his family doesn't want to talk to him because it's like there
Okay.
he go on this nonsense again. So
Right.
now you do feel like you're fighting it alone. It does feel like you're just there, and nobody cares. Nobody really sees what you're going through.
Okay. So if you're in that situation, what would you suggest to somebody out there that might be feeling like that right now? There's a lot of us out there that suffer from PTSD, TBIs. A lot of people, 2026, relationships are seeming to end a lot sooner nowadays. People are crashing out, going through divorces. They're not looking to stick through it anymore. Um, what would you say to somebody like that?
For somebody like that, I would say, I would definitely say talk to a counselor. Talk to a counselor because a lot of times you don't realize how you acting. Living witness. I, I was acting a fool and stuff, and and my wife had to reel me back in, but I didn't really know about counseling. I actually felt like I was being picked on.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Well, well, my kids, they were just playing like they always do. And I'm over here telling them, hey, stop all that noise. And
Okay.
and I didn't know. I just didn't know. And my wife was talking to me about it, and she said, well, the way you were yelling at the kids and all they were doing was playing the Xbox. And I
Hmm.
started looking back and oh God.
Self-reflecting. Okay.
Yes, self-reflection, and it slapped me in the face. I was like, oh my God, that was terrible. Yeah, them kids did nothing. I got them that Xbox for them to play and get rowdy, get competitive. And I didn't know. So I when I got home permanently, I felt scared. I was for about 2 months. I was scared to discipline my children because I always wondered, what am I gonna overdo it?
Hmm.
Because I overdid it and didn't know I was overdoing it. So it was a scary time. And
Let me
I didn't really deal with any counseling or whatever. I kind of made it out of it, but I look back and I'm like, oh my God.
let me ask you a question. Let me stop you very real quick, just to get to it, because you said it made you scared. So what did I mean? Explain that feeling, like goosebumps, like you sitting there thinking to yourself, like, you know what I mean? What kind of father, what kind of man? Like, tell me the thoughts that was possibly going through your head at that time, in case somebody's out there that's probably going through the same thing and can resonate with what you're thinking.
Well, the scary part is you being so far out of your character and not knowing it. You thinking you're reacting to everything the way you usually do, and then you realize you didn't. And it always take a second set of eyes, and you always got to be you always got to be willing to understand that people see things differently. And regardless if you don't have any ill will behind it or whatever, a lot of times the people know you have no ill will, but you identifying that you're doing it seem to imply, from your perspective, that you have ill will. So for anybody out there suffering from it, talk to somebody. Talk to you could even talk to your friend, but definitely talk to a professional. Talk to a professional and just know nobody hates you. They just hate what you're doing at the moment. And be willing to say, hey, am I cutting up? Because you don't think it. You think I've been the same person for 50 years, but it's not always the case, and you don't know what you don't know.
Great point. I like the way you said, to ask the questions, to validate, you know, trust that your environment. What do you say to the women that are in relationships with men that may not know how to express themselves or to self-evaluate and to be able to course correct in real time, like you said you were able to do, right? Because a lot of times you hear people say, "Well, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want you to, explode on me," right? So it's like you don't want them to be the victim um, from your lack of control over your emotions, but at the same time, too, being able to identify and say, "Hey," like you just said earlier, "Hey, you just kind of spazzed out a little bit." You don't want to tell them to hey, suck it up and get some more courage. But what is it? And obviously seeking, professional guidance, a subject matter expert, a coach, or somebody along those lines. But just being a spouse of someone, and maybe some things that maybe in passing through in the household, soft touches on the shoulder, little things like that. Embracing what's something that just suggestion. Not saying that what you're going to say is going to fix anybody's problems, but just something that if you would have known, maybe you could have possibly given your wife that information to probably help you out as you went through an episode. That way to kind of console you or to be a caregiver or caretaker in the process.
Something I could say to a spouse that's dealing with that, I could say, sit this person down and let them know that, usually when this happened, this here is how you usually react. But lately, this here is how you react to it. Does something get worse from our perspective? And this would make him think, because then he or she think, and they'll look at it and be like, you know what, I did used to laugh about that, and now I'm over here getting all upset about it. That did used to be funny. And was there something different? Was it done differently? What made your reaction different? So that's a soft way to break the ice. And it's sit say, can sit down, talk to the kids, and it's like, hey, be a little patient, but I don't want you to become a different person. He's going through something right now that you're not gonna understand, but we're gonna work through it.
So
So
great point. Great point. You mentioned the kids because we talk a lot about the spouses, and we haven't touched on the kids yet. So in these situations, oftentimes you'll say the kids they may get overlooked because it's so much that you're paying so much attention on and making sure that you and the two parents are trying to coexist and be able to evolve in that same area, and then you forget about the kids, the type of environment that you may be providing for those kids that may be a toxic environment. So in that situation, are there some warning signs or some things that maybe at sometimes you may need to take a step back and say that it's not just about you and the other parent or the other spouse. You got to look at how you're affecting, the household and the climate, within in that environment.
well, you'll see little things like, you come home from work and the kids don't run to you, daddy. You know, you'll
Right.
you,
Right.
you'll see little things. Your kids scared to walk past the TV,
Right.
different things like that. Um, I had a neighbor that this guy was he was back then it was shell shock before PTSD was a word. So he was
Oh
shell
yeah,
shocked.
yeah.
but,
Yeah,
I mean, same thing, just this different era. And
yeah.
this guy, he was kind of like on a rotational thing going to Iraq. And one of the kids walked past the TV while he was playing this Xbox, and he threw down his controller like, "Oh my God, only 3 more months till I go to Iraq." And I'm like, I'm
That's that
sitting at
sense of
the house.
normalcy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm sitting at the house just looking like, yeah.
yeah.
I was around 30 at the time, and seeing other couples do crazy things like that just blew my mind.
So let me ask you a question, right? So there's been a changing of the guard over the last, let's just say 5 to 8 years, and let's stick in our lane. Let's stick it to in the military lane, because a
Okay.
lot of women have assumed a lot of roles in leadership. Not just inside the home, but outside the home. Um, a lot of empowerment, a lot of women's movements, and a lot of women have assumed the responsibilities of leadership, especially when the man is not in the home. But
Right.
a lot of times you see when he I'll say the man when he comes back, there's because we always talk about roles and expectations, expectation management. So when that team is supposed to reform like Voltron, right? Everybody comes back, and then now I think that's where the disconnect happens because the empowerment, mom has been running the household since dad's been gone, and so no, dad comes back. Now dad has no place in the household because mom's quote unquote been running the household, or at least the permanent figure in the household that everyone can see. And so then dad comes back, then where does he go? And it's not a problem with dad supporting mom, but then I think what happens is nowadays is what you see in the surges of, they talk a lot about female narcissists, is they take the power, they take the responsibility, but then they may lack the accountability. You know what I mean? They come with great power and great responsibility, but they don't assume all the other things that come with it. Accolades of being in charge and being respected, but not the other intangibles that come with it. And so a lot of the disconnect comes between now a power struggle versus those two learning how to coexist in the home. What would you say if you've seen any of it, especially since you've been married for 24 years?
I would say, just work your way back in. Don't just, you can't really come back in the house and like, daddy's home. Who did what? And you
Right.
can't start whooping butt and stuff as soon as you walk through the door the
But a
next
lot of
day.
times that's the expectation because they'll say, "Dad's home now. Take him. I need my time." Right. So again, we
Right,
got to be, devil's advocate. You just can't look at it, for one way. Perspective is a lot of times, women they do that. Hey, dad's back now. Now I need my time. These are your kids. You've been gone for 6, 8, 9, 10 months. Now I need to get my mind back. And a lot of times they're not given that time to reintegrate and figure out what was going on and what did I miss. So now I'm the bad guy because you're putting me back into place. It's just a
right.
plug and play. Now you come in and be good cop, bad cop, and I'm the bad cop all the time. So I'm just saying that when you interchanging those roles out in relationships, I think sometimes those things aren't looked at as much as, what I mean, they need to be looked at.
Yes, it's definitely a transition. When you get home, your first your first week or so should just be all love for the kids. They start acting up, and you don't.
Let me ask you a question. What about all love for you? Because dad's been gone. Why is dad coming back and got to give out all love for everybody else? Why isn't dad being welcome and received?
Oh, well,
We talk a lot about dad doing everything for everyone else. Why is nobody talking about doing anything for dad?
well, not really sure how that would play out because for me, when I came back from deployment, matter of fact, I had that picture up on my presentation yesterday. My
Okay.
4 kids made a banner for me, welcome home, daddy.
Okay,
And
that's all.
my wife was there when I came out that runway, out that breezeway off the plane. My wife was there. My kids was there holding the sign. So the welcome home, and the next day, I even have a picture the next day of me sitting on the couch and all four of my kids just laying on me. So 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 thankfully, by the way, my little episode happened during my R&R. So
Wait,
I
wait,
had a
what episode, man?
what we was talking about before when I was when I was being mean to the kids
Oh, okay,
over
okay,
playing
okay,
the
okay,
Xbox.
okay.
That happened during my
We
R&R.
know you know your cookies out the cat. Gotcha.
Right. So when I went back to Iraq, my wife was able to reel me in while I was over there. So when I got back, I was all my mind was right. So
Okay.
yeah, she got me in place and she got me straightened out. So there wasn't much issue when I came home for good. So yeah, all it was like all love. It was just a loving time. I
Smooth
still
transition from when you came back to home.
yeah, so that so I didn't really deal with the whole thing of coming back home permanently acting a fool or anything. It was able to cut off, and I had time to reflect on it as opposed to someone who's there and stay there. So it was
So
that was kind of
you didn't hear any other stories about nobody. You didn't have any other thing about anybody else going around. Nobody, no other issues.
yes,
All
yes. I've had a lot of domestic violence
Yeah, so
cases.
this is an example of what we're talking about. Not necessarily saying that you didn't have to go through it, but if there was an example that you can, you know what I mean, that you can share more or less, because it's not or less about the things not happening, but just more or less trying to how to deal or identify with an example of something happening.
Oh yeah, and how to deal with it. It's that heat of the moment is so hard. So what you would do to deal with it, and I think it's a responsibility of the military to let people know and kind of share stories of it. But what you should do, it should be part of the integration process.
Right,
So when you come home, you should know that these kids have grown up a little bit and you missed it, and you haven't been around, so you will have to have that conversation, almost like a almost like a change of command. You need to know what changes happened while you were gone, and
right,
you need to know what changes has happened, such and such. He don't like football no more, he likes soccer.
right,
She don't want to be a nail tech, she wants to be a hairdresser now. So,
right,
you kind of gotta see all of this stuff because you're trying to accommodate. I mean, let's say you were gone for a year. You were Now you're sitting up here, you're a 2-year-old. Now this you trying to get his 2-year-old pacifier and they got a sippy cup.
right,
So
right.
yeah, you gotta figure out what has changed while you was gone.
So what happens when that person wants to reconnect and try to figure out what changed, and the other person doesn't want to do it?
Then that's where the chaos start. Now, yeah, because you can't be like, hey, what's going on? The answer can't be, well, if you was here, you would know. Like,
Right.
uh, right. So if you can't find a common ground on something that simple, yeah, I think y'all was doomed anyway because you should want to know what changes has been made in your household while you were gone. And the person that was there in the household should be anxious to tell you, because when they tell you over the phone, you get these little bits and pieces while you're talking to each other, but that don't stay in your mind when you got rockets coming at you and bombs going
Right.
off every 2 days. That's not gonna stay with you. So
No,
it's
absolutely.
yeah, you almost got to give another rundown.
So in a situation like that, how do you know the difference between you just having a rough patch or a rough season, or the relationship is really broken?
Well, it depends on how the relationship was before you left.
Doesn't absence
So,
make the heart grow fonder?
right, right. And, if the relationship wasn't good when you left, now you done had a year or so to realize I don't really want this in my life. I found a new piece. So, when you have a strong relationship, that will all come together.
Okay, okay. Okay, you said I found a new piece. Okay,
Right,
all right, old school. I got you. I got you. So,
right.
so if they do give you the phone call, or if you get that message by snail mail, what does acceptance look like, right? So you just have to accept that. Maybe you. What does that look like? Accepting that.
Acceptance, human nature, you're gonna always wonder if you did anything wrong. What could I have done better? And you never know, because you're never gonna do everything right. So what degree of wrong was my mistakes? So and that's gonna bother you. And some, I mean, some have a whole nother life, without you coming home. Now when you come home, you're in the way.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways people see things. Just I mean, I guess you could say the pandemic. That's
Okay.
where people realize they actually don't like each other.
Right.
That's where
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that can happen. And and a lot of times people grow apart and nobody's at fault. You could say this and say that, but when you grow, like that singer Life Jennings said, the only constants in life is change and change.
No, yeah, facts. Let's talk about that. You said people grow apart, right? And I think
Right?
that's important because it goes back to what you were saying as far as for the communication piece. And if you identify that there's a problem and you're saying, which way you want to navigate and move forward, and you have that conversation and you identify that you're going in separate directions, can you still love each other and struggle to reach each other? Because if you're
Yes,
struggling to reach each other and you're going in those different directions, it kind of seems like a lot of people are giving up on love now because they got to put the work in and fight for it.
yes, yes. A lot of people, yeah, and that's part of Maslow's hierarchy of need, is the need for belonging and being wanted. So that's human nature. If you're not a human, you don't want to be loved. But a lot of times people, they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to endure the bumps and bruises and say, "Oh no, I'm never doing this again." And when they're 80 years old and alone, it's like, I wish I could have worked it out. I wish I would
Right.
have put more effort towards working things out. And there's a lot of regret that comes afterwards. So, but
No, I get it. I get it. All right. So I'm gonna ask you a question. You just give me a quick answer. It don't have to be
Okay.
long. It's drawn out. It's about 5 or 6 questions. The
Okay.
first one is biggest relationship killer.
Biggest relationship killer is um, selfishness.
Oh, I like it. I like it. I like it. Most underrated relationship skill.
The skill to share a laugh.
Mm, I like that. I like that. One thing couples need more of.
Couples need more. They need more vacations.
Vacations. I like it. I like it. One thing couples need less of.
Um, they need less. Um, they need less proving themselves. I mean that in the context of in a disagreement. Don't try to be right. Just try to know that person's point of view. That's the only purpose of a disagreement. It ain't for you to, because if there's not a definitive right or wrong. Y'all gonna be at it all night. Just accept the fact that that person feels differently from you. If it's not gonna cause any damage or anything like that, just accept it.
Okay. Most common communication mistake.
Most common communication mistake. Preconceived notions.
Give me an example.
Um, you think I was let's see, what's an example? You think I hate you because I cut your rose bush.
Well, why'd you cut my rose bush?
I was fooling around with that doggone weed whacker and hit the root.
Okay. Best way to reconnect.
Best way to reconnect is
And I'm not talking about Bluetooth either.
oh, I was thinking Wi-Fi.
I know. I already know. Wi-Fi. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, I was an IT guy. The best way to reconnect is to spend time together in like a nature environment where you're not distracted by different things or just a walk in the park. That's the best way to reconnect because that's when you get to see that person. Matter of fact, the place of your first date, go to that place and you're gonna rewind time and you're gonna look and you're gonna be like, this here is what our connection is about. Our connection wasn't our love for seafood. Our connection was our love for life. So yeah, go back to the place of your first date. If they close, go to somewhere close.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Go ahead, man. You're here dropping some gems. All right,
Yeah.
man. Last thing I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
One word that describes a healthy relationship. Your perspective, obviously.
A healthy relationship is happy.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Hey, man. I'm gonna give you the floor for a few moments, man. You go ahead and say whatever you need to say to whoever's out there. Make a difference to whoever might be listening, man. Go ahead, take the floor is yours.
Okay, I was talking about the first date. Well, my wife paid for our first date, and
Okay, man.
on our first date, and if she's watching this, I'm sure she's watching this, but she's gonna laugh when I tell you this. She paid for our first date, and when we went to Old Country Buffet, I had the napkin and laid it out, brought it out flat, and I tucked it in like this, and I had it on there like a little kid, and I was eating my food, and
Okay, Norbert.
yeah, yeah. Hey, this was before Norby came out. I think I'm gonna sue him for that idea. But it was so funny, and she laughed about it, and we still laugh about it to this day. You know,
Okay.
every so often I'll put a napkin in there. But we yeah, I knew her about 4 months before I asked her out.
Okay.
So that was another thing about her that I that where we kind of knew each other, but I didn't know anything about her. I knew her name was Sabrina. She knew my name was Clinton. She knew my mother worked in the same building on a different shift. That was pretty much all we knew about each other. But we, you know, while I'm waiting on my mother to come, I always sat and we always shared a laugh, and we laughed about this, laughed about that. So yeah, I liked her as a friend. And if things didn't work out in a relationship, she would have been my best friend. So she is my best friend.
So
So
sound like you had a plan B.
yeah, yeah. If she didn't want me, I'll be that thorn in her side, her best friend that that's close and admiring her from a distance.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Hey, look, man, I ain't gonna keep you tonight, man. I appreciate you, man, for being here. For everybody that's watching, there may be someone watching right now who feels disconnected from the person they love. Maybe they're sitting right beside them. Maybe they're sharing their home. Maybe they're trying. Maybe they're exhausted. Maybe they're wondering if things could ever feel the way they used to be. Clinton, what would you want that person to hear today?
I would want that person to hear if y'all can tolerate each other in the same house and not kill each other, y'all can work it out. So both of y'all gotta want it, and both of y'all have to find a way. You gotta accept each other's differences, because you know this person was this person was that when they were younger, and not to mention, and just think of it this way: you want to say that person changed. I was with my wife since she was 22 and I was 25. She doesn't want to be married to a 25-year-old, and I don't want to be married to a 22-year-old. So accept the change. That change is not against you, it's just a maturing thing that changes, and may look unfamiliar to you, but most of the time people not their change is not worse, it's just different.
Right. And that's what's important, man. Well said. Is and that's a part of growing. Is the problem is when two people both aren't trying to grow at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with it, but eventually you outgrow people that's around you. And you got to make sure that you stand, communicating, and you make sure your goals are still, not necessarily the same, but along that same trajectory. And as you're doing that, you can still work things together and, look to be together in the future. But if only one person's working towards something and the other person's looking behind them, then it's hard to kind of meet up in the same direction. Relationships don't usually break in a single moment. Sometimes they slowly drift apart, one missed conversation away, one unresolved hurt, one unmet need at a time. But distance doesn't always mean the end. sometimes it becomes an invitation to reconnect, rebuild, rediscover, and find each other. Clinton, I appreciate you being here, brother.
Hey, thank you, Trail.
Hey, absolutely, man. Silent no more. We out of here.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir. You too.
All right.
I'm done fighting.